Hello, this is David Wilkerson again with another edition of Old School Boxing Talk. Let's get some things out of the way. I was online there and I'm listening to this YTBC dispute about racism in boxing, and the sad fact of the matter is racism exists in everything, and that's just a point that we as humans, until we evolve past that point, are going to deal with. But I like to leave that out of my boxing talk, because simply put, I don't have time for it, and I find that there's really no place for it in my boxing talk. I want to talk about the best fighters, what I think of the best fighters, and I don't care who you are. If I think you're the best, you're the best. That's just my opinion. Um, Now, this past weekend, we had Earl Spence step up and face his first major test in Chris Algieri. Now, a lot of people are underrating Chris Algieri, saying, oh, Algieri wasn't much. But look at what Algieri's resume has on it. Algieri has Manny Pacquiao on his resume, Ruslan Provodnikov on his resume, Amir Khan on his resume. Yes, he's won in two of those fights, but he has had those fights. Um, Earl Spence hasn't had those fights, those moments. And so fighting Chris Algieri and Earl Spence stopping Chris Algieri was a good thing for Spence, because we got a step closer to finding out what Earl Spence is. Right now, it was a good win. But the question is, and I want it answered, and I'm sure a lot of boxing fans want it answered, is Earl Spence special? When we talk about fighters that are special, Floyd Mayweather, Sugar Ray Robinson, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy Hearns, Marvin Hagler, Muhammad Ali, those guys were special. Head and shoulders above, those guys were special. And they fought fights to show us they were special. We found out how special Leonard was when in a losing effort, actually, against Duran. We got a glimpse of it when he beat the great Wilfred Benitez, who was special. What made Benitez special, Benitez never trained, but still got in there. Youngest champion ever at 17. Youngest three division champ winner. Youngest man to win titles in three weight classes. Wilfred Benitez, who was totally underrated. But everybody that knows me knows I'm big into Wilfred Benitez. I think he's one of the greatest Puerto Rican fighters ever, greatest fighters ever. I just think he doesn't get his proper due, and I think that's a damn shame. But I digress. Let's get back on course. I want to know if Earl Spence is special. I've seen it. I've seen him. He's good. He's really good. But is he special? These are questions I have. These are questions I want to know. What's the next step for Earl Spence? Now, talk about the next step for Earl Spence. Is it a fight with Kell Brooks? Excuse me, maybe. Is it Danny Garcia? I doubt it. Is it Keith Thurman? Not now. And when it comes to those guys, when you talk about Keith Thurman, when you talk about Danny Garcia, between those two, Danny Garcia has a better resume. He's fought better people. Danny Garcia, Amir Khan, Zab Judah, Eric Morales, Lucas Matisse. And when at their best at 147. Oh, and Lamont Peterson. He has a better resume than does Keith Thurman. Now, people cry about Danny Garcia fighting a couple, hand-picked, cherry-picked, whatever you want to call it. When you're a fighter of that level, you can't go fighting monster after monster after monster. You have to have a fight here or there that just keeps you sharp but doesn't break your body down. You cannot continuously just fight every single monster out there. For a run there, Danny Garcia at 140 was fighting monster after monster after monster. He fought Eric Morales, who's a monster. He turned around, he fought, after Eric Morales, he turned around and fought Amir Khan, monster. Turned around after Amir Khan, fought Matisse, monster. He had that run there where he fought nothing but monster, and I think it kind of wore Danny Garcia down. And then when he did give him a couple easier fights, just to keep him busy, not to kill him, but to keep it helped him. When Danny Garcia goes on his run of monster fights, he'll fight. And Danny Garcia and his father will fight anybody. But I think Al Heyman is smart by saying, I don't want to burn you out too much. So, yeah, when I give you a monster, I'm going to give you a monster. But then between those monsters, I'm going to give you fights to keep you active. Because I can't keep feeding you monster after monster to monster. It's going to shorten your career. And I think those people in boxing that criticize that don't understand what the sport takes on, the toll the sport takes on the human body. Okay, now let's get back to Earl Spence. I don't think Spence fights Garcia, and at this point I wouldn't want to see that fight because I don't know if Spence is really ready for that. I would rather see Earl Spence face maybe the WBO champion if they can get Arum to make that fight. But I doubt it because I think Arum wants to hold on to that belt for a little bit now. Because that's the only piece of the welterweight title he has. So I think Bob Arum and HBO want to hold on to that. The champion's weak, but it is what it is. Thurman is going to fight Porter. Thurman Porter's a damn good fight. Best fight you can make in the welterweight division right now. Danny Garcia will probably wind up facing somebody. He just fought Robert Guerrero, and look, whether you like him or not, Guerrero's a bit of a monster himself. That's a fight I wouldn't mind seeing Spence fight, Robert Ghost Guerrero. That might be another stepping stone, another step. If you can't get Kell Brooks, why not fight Robert the Ghost Guerrero? Guerrero, I mean, it would be good for Spence to have more common opponents with these guys, because you fight Guerrero, well, Guerrero's fought Keith Thurman. He's fought Danny Garcia. If Earl Spence is going to be, Guerrero's fought Floyd Mayweather. So why don't you put him in there, put Spence in there with Guerrero, see how he does. If he can do something that none of those guys has done and stop Guerrero, then we know we got something a little special here. We might have to make something special here. But the Robert Guerrero would be that kind of fight, that kind of test, a nice 12-round test that will let us know exactly what young Spence is about. And that's what I want to know. Next, also this weekend, we had a couple other prospects. Lucas Brown won, and the cruiserweight champion who beat Marco Huck, I forgot his name. His name escapes, but he beat Steve Cunningham, which honestly, Cunningham is a brave, gutsy fighter, but his chin betrays him at the wrong time. And that's what happened here. Once again, his chin betrayed him. 4 times he was dropped. Never really in a fight, so, it is what it is. But also we had the return of Gary Russell Jr. Now, here's the difference that I want to see from Russell and Spence. Gary Russell Jr. was rushed through 24-0, whatever, and fought absolutely nobody. Nobody of rank. Nobody of merit. The first live opponent he faced was Lomachenko. And he lost that fight. It was a good fight, but, he lost the fight. And that's because Gary Russell Jr., and I'm hoping that they don't make the same mistake with Spence they did with Russell Jr., was put into a situation, into a fight where he had faced things he had never faced before. He never faced adversity in a fight. He never faced a guy that's going to do things him he's never done before. And when he got in that situation, he couldn't handle it. And Lomachenko, who had been through that in the fight before, people thought, Lomachenko lost to Salido. Well, yeah, he lost to Salido, but you know what did he learn in the fight with Salido? He learned the Salido fight. Salido was a tough, dirty, rough guy that took Lomachenko in only a second pro fight into depths that Gary Russell Jr. to this day still hasn't been in. And Lomachenko, to his credit, learned from that fight. So when he got in his next shot, the WBO title, he took advantage of it. In a fight that many people, Gary Russell Jr., should do win this. But Gary Russell Jr. has been corn-fed, been hand-fed these guys that didn't test him. See, the problem with boxing, And a lot of promoters is in boxing. There used to be a saying in boxing: if you went 20-0 and if you won 20 fights and you never lost a fight, and you haven't fought anybody. In the case of Gary Russell, that was true, and it's somewhere in the case of Earl Spence, that's true. We somewhere in boxing, I don't know where it happened, but it became so important to remain undefeated that was a selling point, that you had to remain undefeated. And to remain undefeated, you didn't fight anybody. That losing was bad. Let me explain something to you. The boxing is a sport where your record saves you forever. Okay, it just does. We don't take away from the 49ers as one of the greatest dynasties because they lost a few games. We don't. Just you lose. Sugar Ray Robinson, the greatest fighter of all time, lost a few fights. Sugar Ray Leonard lost to Roberto Duran, but rebounded and made big fights and is one of the greatest fighters of all time. Muhammad Ali, the greatest of all time, lost, rebounded. Joe Louis lost, rebounded. Sometimes you learn more in a loss than you do in a win. I would rather have a guy fight a tough guy, a guy that's going to teach you something and lose a fight and learn from it, than have a guy go out there and lose to some guy that he shouldn't lose to and learn nothing. Until a fighter deals with adversity, you don't know what he's made of. And that's what we're finding out. I want to still find out with Gary Russell. That's the question I have with Earl Spence. What are they made of? Do they have that something extra? Do they have that special quality? What happens when they're in tough? With Gary Russell's first brush with toughness, he didn't pass the test. That was a good accounting, and I'm not holding anything against Gary Russell for loss to Lomachenko, who lost one of the better fighters in the world. So I'm not holding anything against him for that loss to Lomachenko. I'm just saying that Gary Russell Jr., what he hasn't done, and what I do hold against him and his people is, except for winning the title, he hasn't stepped up his level of opposition. That, and the same thing Earl Spence is, level of opposition, your resume. When you look at Danny Garcia, when you look at Keith Thurman, they have fought guys, they have a hell of a resume, they have been tested. We know what they're made of. Have they come through the test looking great all the time? No. Keith Thurman was hurt badly by a body shot in his fight before this. Damn, I forget the gentleman's name his name escapes me. I'll come back to it. But he was hurt. Luis Collazo. I'm sorry, Luis Collazo hurt him badly with a body shot, and Keith Thurman had to work through that being hurt with that body shot and work through that. He was tested. Keith Thurman was in fights before that before he won the title, where he was tested. We found out what Keith Thurman is all about. Danny Garcia, once again, he fought Eric Morales twice. He fought Lucas Matisse. Matisse on the Mayweather Canelo undercard. Matisse at that point was a freaking monster. He was like, oh my God. I didn't think Danny was going to win that fight, but Danny won that fight. Danny destroyed Matisse. Danny looked good doing it. But Danny also had questions about himself answered along the way. Zab Judah fight was a tough fight where Danny had to answer a few questions. Danny Garcia has been in fights where he's had Amir Khan. He was actually behind that fight till he caught Khan, but he was making his move on. But the thing is, he's been tested. The question I have with Kell Brooks, so everybody says, oh, he's the best guy out there. Well, outside of the Sean Porter fight, which I don't know, Sean Porter really didn't. I don't know. Didn't look like the Sean Porter I usually see. Sean Porter didn't really show up that night, so I don't think Kell Brooks got tested. But again, the biggest name on Kell Brooks' record is Sean Porter. Earl Spence's biggest name is Algieri. Now, if you're going to compare the two, who has a better resume, Porter or Algieri? Actually, Algieri does. So I would think Spence and Algieri's are even, and Spence and Brooks is an even matchup, because I think that they pretty much fought the same level of opposition, but they still got the same questions about them. They haven't been tested. Neither one of them has been tested, and I think that would be a fight that I would like to see, because honestly, you got two undefeated kids who really haven't fought anybody, Test them against each other. We'll see which one of them's worth it. Maybe Spence shines in that fight, but then Spence shines in that fight, and okay, he's the better welterweight. But then it would turn around. Brooks might learn from that fight and turn around. Brooks maybe it's really something special that we're underrating. Same thing we got going on with the Charlo brothers. I don't know which one, Jermaine or Jamel, whatever. One of the Charlo brothers fighting Austin Trout. This young man's going to be tested because Austin No Doubt Trout, again, a fighter with a great resume. He's beaten Miguel Cotto. He's fought Canelo Alvarez. He's fought and lost to Asante Lara. Again, he has a great resume. He's a former world champion. Austin Trout, good fighter. He's going to be in there with the one Charlo brother. Now, if he wins, it's not an upset because, Austin Trout is no joke. But if the young Charlo boy beats him, then then we'll have to look at him and say, whoa, okay, this kid might be something more than we thought. We have to take a closer look at him. And then we'll find out. We're going to start finding out some of these fighters that are undefeated. We don't know what they're worth. We don't know if they're the goods because you can run anybody through and make them undefeated. You can hand pick fighters and give them. They got a big. Oh, they're undefeated. Well, it looks good for HBO and Showtime, the networks. Looks good for undefeated guys. Looks good, but at the end of the day, how many times we've seen these undefeated kids get in there with somebody real and get their ass beat because they've been put in a situation they're not ready for. A time a loss really helped the guy, Costa Tszyu. Costa Tszyu lost to Verno Phillips. Costa Tszyu was undefeated, knocking everybody out. Oh, Costa Tszyu was so great. But Costa Tszyu wasn't tested. When he got tested, he lost that test. When Costa Tszyu came back, he became a better fighter. Azuma Nelson, undefeated, fought the late great Salvador Sanchez. We didn't know that Azuma Nelson that he was going to be what he turned out to be. We found that out because after losing to Sanchez, he came back and we saw that Azuma Nelson was special. Azuma Nelson was great. And there's no denying how great Azuma Nelson was. There are times when a good fighter becomes a great fighter in defeat. It happens. We don't know because until you're put in that circumstance, you don't know what you're made of. None of us do. Fighters that have lost fights but they've grown up. Marvin Hagler went to Philly, fought on the Philly Bad Boys. He lost a few of those fights. But what it did was it hardened Marvin and made Marvin Hagler better. A loss can make you better because it's what you learn from that loss, what you bring back from the loss, and how you come back from that loss. Everybody says, oh, Mayweather went undefeated. Yeah, Floyd did. Floyd was special. We knew Floyd was special from the time Floyd was young. Floyd's dad started Floyd in this shit when he was like 2 years old. When he could, from the time Floyd could stand up, Big Floyd had him in gloves in the gym and training him. So Floyd was a prodigy. I'm sorry, Floyd was a freaking prodigy. So, some people, you can't compare these guys to Mayweather because Mayweather's a freaking prodigy. Now, another thing that I'm big on is high ring IQ. Now, a lot of people jumped on Earl Spence because Earl Spence, when asked about why he was able to stop Algieri and Manny Pacquiao could not, he simply pointed out a fact. Manny Pacquiao's in-ring IQ is not that high. Manny Pacquiao is a great fighter, yes, but it's all on his athletic ability. That's what Manny Pacquiao gets over on, his athletic ability. His in-ring IQ. Manny Pacquiao cannot do a lot of the basics. He can't cut the ring off. He has to, and the thing about Manny Pacquiao can't handle boxers that stick and move around with him. He can't handle that. Juan Manuel Marquez gave Manny Pacquiao's toughest life or death fights because Marquez is a high ring IQ, and Marquez was able to time a lot of what Pacquiao did, and gave Manny life or death situations. And then the final fight between them, you see Marquez timed him. Right hand, Manny jumped in. Marquez timed him, left Manny sleeping. When Manny fought Floyd, Floyd stepped him, put him in where he wanted him with the jab and the right hand. Jab and right hand all night long. All night long, that's all Floyd used, jab and the right hand. And kept Manny Pacquiao where he wanted him. Put Manny where he wanted. He wanted Manny on the left, put him on the left. Put Manny wherever he wanted Manny because Manny couldn't cut off the ring on Floyd. Manny doesn't know how to cut off the ring. And it's something that I would think that Freddie Roach, as a trainer, should have taught him. And that's the thing about trainers is, does your trainer help build your in-ring IQ? In the case of Manny Pacquiao and Freddie Roach, the answer is no, because I don't see Freddie Roach making Manny Pacquiao better. I see what Freddie Roach did was took what Manny Pacquiao can do and just helped him improve upon that. The same thing was like with Miguel Cotto. I don't think he's made Cotto better. He's just taken what Cotto, some of the things that Cotto used to do that Cotto stopped doing, and done, and just emphasize and put some of the old stuff back in it. I don't see him making it better. I just thought he said, whatever you forgot to do, we just want to get you back doing that. With Manny Pacquiao is more or less, okay, let's not be so reckless, but let's do this. I don't see him making Manny Pacquiao better. I haven't seen Freddie Roach make a fighter really better. I've seen Emmanuel Stewart would take a fighter like Vitaly Klitschko. With the Klitschko, made him better. Certain trainers can make. I think that the job that Virgil Hunter's done with Amir Khan, he's made Amir Khan better. Some trainers can make you better, and some trainers can't. That's just how. But it also means your in-ring IQ. Trainers help your in-ring IQ, and a lot of fighters don't have that high in-ring IQ. Now, another topic on the YTBC seems to be this race type of deal, and like I said, I don't get involved in that. I like fighters that are good fighters. If you're good, I follow you. I want to see the best be the best, and I want to see somebody special. And I don't care where you're from or what color you are, whatever. I just like good fighters. Now, it seems like the big thing they're talking about is how hated Floyd Mayweather was, and how the boxing community's turned on Mayweather, and how the boxing community's done Rigondeaux. But people seem to forget that they did the same thing to Larry Holmes. When Larry Holmes was heavyweight champion, after Ali retired, they discredited Larry Holmes for the longest time. And even after Ali came back, Larry Holmes beat an old faded Ali, who had no business in there anyways. They still discredited Larry Holmes. Then, when Jerry Cooney was supposed to be the man. And everybody, and I mean, Jerry's another prime example case of a guy that was undefeated, ran through a bunch of old guys that were not ready. Ken Norton was way past his prime, his biggest one at that point. Jerry Cooney fought with whatever dregs were left from the 70s of boxing and destroyed a bunch of them guys, and the boxing media made a big deal about that, and Jerry Cooney was supposed to be the guy. What they weren't looking at was the high ring IQ of Larry Holmes. Being in the gyms with Ali, being in the gyms with Frazier, being in the gyms with some of these high echelon fighters, and having good trainers himself, Larry Holmes was a very smart fighter and had one of the best jabs in boxing ever. Larry Holmes pretty much destroyed Jerry Cooney. And that was the boxing media. They tried to make excuses for Cooney. I mean, they came up with excuses, all kinds of excuses for Cooney. But the point of the matter is, if you watch the fight on HBO, HBO Legendary Nights, Larry Holmes owned Jerry Cooney. And anybody that followed boxing knew that Jerry Cooney didn't have a snowball chance in hell against Larry Holmes unless Larry Holmes just laid down for him. Because Larry Holmes, his ring IQ, Larry Holmes' stature was much better than Jerry Cooney's. And they did that to Larry Holmes. And so when people talk about how they're doing Rigondeaux, how they're doing Golovkin or whatever, the case of the matter is, it is what it is. It's been going on in boxing forever. It will keep going on in boxing because it's human nature. Just like we have racism in this world, it's human nature. Now, let's get to Triple G, who seems to be the big poster boy for a lot of controversy, first and foremost. And this may piss some people off, but I don't give a damn. Here's the deal. Bernard Hopkins has his record of 20 title defenses of a title. One belt. Good for Bernard. Good fighter. Triple G's approaching that record for defenses of a belt. Hey, good belt. Good job. Carlos Monzon holds the record for the most defenses of the middleweight championship. That is the undisputed middleweight championship. Roberto Duran has the record for the most defenses of the lightweight title, 11. Undisputed lightweight championship. Marvin Hagler is in second place in the middle division with 12 because of undisputed middleweight title defenses. So have in today's boxing, for a guy like Bernard Hopkins, who's defended the IBF title 20 times, yay, you got one belt. And Triple G, these guys, to me, I mean, to me, it means nothing. I'm just going to be honest with you, it means nothing. Because Hagler had to fight everybody, and people say, well, Hagler did this, Hagler. Look, Triple G doesn't compare to Hagler. Bernard Hopkins doesn't compare to Hagler. None of these guys compare to Hagler. Okay? You want to impress me? Unify the division. That means get all the damn belts, and then make 12 to 4 to 15 title defenses. Then come see me. And I personally will respect you, because if, these people winning a belt and defending a belt 20 times, you won a belt. One belt. There's still another man saying he's a champion. Bob Foster, 14 defenses of the light heavyweight championship. 14. Again, record. Undisputed. He was the champion. It was him. That's it. When you're a champion, this is the problem with boxing. When you're a champion, if you say you're the best in the world, that's like the Denver Broncos won the Super Bowl. They're the world champions of football. Well, what if there was another team that won a championship and said they're the world champions of football? You think the Broncos are going to like that? Alabama won a national championship. Well, there's another team said, well, we're the national champions. Think Alabama's going to like that? Only in boxing do we allow to have multiple champions. And the promoters and the networks love it, because they're the ones that did it. They're the ones that took the 13, 14, 15 away from us, because the networks wanted to, how can we have title fights and make them quicker, make them shorter, because 15 rounds is a long time. And they use the excuse of saying, oh, it's about the health of fighters. Bullshit. It's about the fact that if you get rid of 3 rounds, you can have 2 title fights in less time than it took you to have 2. It took you, 15-round fights, which were great, but we can cut down on that. And you kind of, boxing lost something then. The networks and the promoters and these rank-ass organizations helped start the killing of boxing. And these same rank-ass organizations and these same rank-ass promoters and same rank-ass goddamn networks are the reason why fighters now are content to just win a belt and feel they are special. Let's face it. If I'm in a welterweight division and I'm a belt holder and I want to be the man, then I want to face everybody. I want all the belts. I want to be the one and only champion. And as long as there's another man calling himself and is recognized as the world champion, I have a problem with that. But today's fighters don't have a problem with that. They say, oh, I got a belt. I'm the world champion. And I'm happy with that. Well, this guy says, I'm the world champion. And he's happy with that. Some fighters have that no, I can't go with that. You say you're the best. I say I'm the best. We got to find a way to settle this. But the networks like it. The promoters like it, because they all make money off being able to promote a championship fight. Oh, there's more money. If you say championship, there's more money for that fight. So we got these 20 million champions that don't mean shit. The fighters need to be ashamed of themselves, because at the end of the day, yes, boxing is a business, but at the end of the day, what happened to your pride? What happened to how your history and the tradition of the championships? What happened to being the man? Today's fighters don't want to be the man. I will give Floyd credit, because in some cases, Floyd, he did unify a few of those belts. Junior middleweight and welterweight, he was, the man. He didn't unify all of them, but he was, he wasn't the undisputed, but he was, pretty much primarily the man. I would like to see a lot of these fighters, and maybe Earl Spence will be that guy that says, you know what, I want them all. I want to touch them all. I don't want to just hit a single. I don't want to hit a double. I want to hit a triple. I want to hit the Grand Slam. There's 4 of them. I want them all. And it's up to Al Heyman and Mayweather Promotions, who I guess was running with Spence, to then reach out to Bob Arum and get that fight for the WBO title. It's up to them because they got the other 3 belts in house. So now it's up to them. The only guy they got to go outside for is for the WBO belt, and that's Arum's. They got to go outside for that one, but that's, the junior middleweight division, they have all the belts. Unify them. The middleweight division, that needs to be settled. I mean, look, I have nothing against Gennady Golovkin. I think the thing that I don't like what Canelo's doing, I don't like Cotto started with this 155. Hey guys, we have enough catch weight. Just go to junior middleweight division. If you don't want to fight 260-pound Canelo, drop a pound, go down to 154, and do your shtick there. But you don't want to go back there because Asante Laura is waiting for you down there, and that boy gave you life or death. You barely got past him the first time. I would like to see Canelo and Triple G unify it. I'd like to see them two fight. Hell, if Canelo, if you don't want to fight Triple G, why don't you go fight the WBO champion? Grab that belt. Let Triple G make another one of these meaningless defenses of his meaningless belts, and then you guys wait till next year. Hey, or do like it in the old days. Hey, you get the Canelo, you want to fight 155, Billy Joe Sanders. Get old Billy Joe Sanders in his WBO belt. Come like in what is it, September? Come back in September. Grab Billy Joe Sanders in his WBO belt. Have Triple G fight somebody else. You guys do it on a double, on a pay-per-view, because we know Triple G can't sell out a pay-per-view on his own. Canelo doesn't need to, but get the fans a treat. A nice, big, strong card. You put Triple G on as a main support. Canelo's the main event. Triple G makes another meaningless defense. Canelo unifies the belt. Then you got all 4 belts in the tent. Canelo beats Billy Joe Saunders. Triple G wins it. Then you come back next May. Fight sold. All you got to do is pick the arena and the unification of the middleweight title. Canelo Alvarez. Triple G. You got Cinco de Mayo. Big weekend. Big fight. Woo! Sell a lot of pay-per-views. Also, guys, put a strong undercard on there. Also what I like is that Andre Ward is talking about fighting somebody. His next fight is going to be for that interim, that WBC #1 contenders belt, which that silver belt, whatever the hell WBC, but pretty much is their #1 contender belt. It's their mandatory belt. Andre Ward is supposed to be fighting somebody for that to build up him and Kovalev. Again, perfect chance for a nice little, build up here. You got Andre Ward making his fight there, and you got Kovalev making his fight. Hell, if Kovalev was fighting Russia, hell, do the damn thing from Russia. Andre Ward's an Olympian. He's fought, in Russia. He's fought overseas before. He does that. Andre Ward fights whoever he's fighting. Kovalev can be the main event. Boom. You set them two. They're both on the same card. They're setting it up for their big main event, which will be, pretty much be for the unified light heavyweight title, not the world light, but the unified. But what it does is then it says to Adonis Stevenson, come play ball. If Andre Ward wins like a lot of people expect him to, the problem HBO is going to have then is, do we go back and do business with Al Heyman to get the Stevenson fight, or do we run the risk of losing Andre Ward and losing the light heavyweight division altogether? See, HBO is in a situation where they cause a lot of this bullshit. They did. They could have been in a prime position, really, HBO, if they'd worked with Al Heyman. With the PBC, HBO right now would be they'd be in a catbird seat, because you'd have all these fighters from the PBC that Al Heyman has growing up on national TV, the public starting to get to know these guys, on having these fights on national TV. Then when they come to Showtime, then when they come to HBO, now we're ready for a jump-off point of pay-per-view stars, pay-per-view attraction, which means here comes the big money, because now these guys have graduated to that level. And you'll get those pay-per-view buys because the casual boxing fans will have on some Saturday night have turned in and seen them. Adrian Broner did over 1 million views on Spike TV. Over 1 million on Spike TV. Highest rated boxing show on Spike TV. Adrian Broner. Now people are saying, well, the PBC is dying off because they only did a little over 1 million views with Earl Spence. It's Earl Spence. That's still a nice number. The UFC's not doing 4, 5, 6 million views on Fox. They're getting about the same thing. And you got to realize that at the same token, though, that card there was going up against a fight night on Fox. So, you got boxing overhead going up against UFC. It's not like, there was a fight on And those fight fans, there are fight fans that watch both. But those fight fans that normally would watch UFC would have tuned in to watch boxing. And a lot of those boxing fans that would watch boxing would have tuned in to UFC. But what happens is when you have UFC and boxing on, you split your market. UFC guys are going to go here, boxing fans are going to go here. So they both probably got about 1 million views each. They both got the same thing. And that would be the one thing I would say to Al Heyman if I was smart. Get him and Dana White. Look, we both got combat sports here. Let's try to work some. I'd like, what dates are you going to have on free TV? Because I don't want to go head to head with you because we're both splitting the fucking market. We're both hurting ourselves. The same way we do with pay-per-views, we need to do with TV. So we can both help both our sports grow because honestly, we both need each other. And that's the thing that combat sports needs to realize. You do need each other. UFC needs boxing. Boxing needs UFC. UFC has learned a lot from boxing because Dana White and UFC have done a lot of have kept a lot of the bullshit out of boxing out of theirs because they can create a whole division. It's like, we're the UFC. We have our own world champion, our own ranking, we have our own fighters each weight class. Boom. None of that bullshit. Dana White makes the fights he wants to, Dana White and his people make the fights they want to make. Not always the good fights, but they make the fights they want to make. And fights do get made. Whereas in boxing, there's more money in boxing. So, it's a whole different game. But could Al Heyman be the first guy to do that in boxing? Absolutely. And I think that's what Al Heyman is doing. I think he's taking a mold from the UFC. And he's got all these 200-300 fighters under his banner. And I think that's what he's doing. I think he's taking the look of what UFC's done right and what they've done wrong. He's saying, hey, I could probably create something like this. I could create a mold like this where I could have my own stable of fighters, get a champion, and, do all this. And I think that's where Al Heyman and the PBC are headed in that direction to do a deal, something similar to UFC. And that might just be the future of boxing, is where promoters try to, like Bob Arum seems to have wrangled up the WBO. And it seems like that's the way it seems like it's going. I think Arum's going in that direction. I think Al Heyman's going in that direction. I think Golden Boy is going to try to go in the direction of getting one of these governing bodies. That's their champion, getting their fighters in one weight class, all corral and fighting for that title. And everybody's going to start to build their own little, little boxing versions of the UFC, where they get their buzz talent. What Bob Arum's already does. Bob Arum does nothing but in-house fights. Very rare does Bob Arum does an co-promotional fight because Bob Arum keep all the money in-house. So Bob Arum's been doing the UFC style forever. Just now you need a title that you can control. Back in the early days, the 70s, 80s, Don King controlled the WBC because Don King controlled the heavyweight title. All the best heavyweights were Don Kings. So the WBC was behooving to Don King. So when Don King came through and said, hey, I want this guy in this way, yeah, no problem, Don, yeah. Why? Because the big dog on the planet was the heavyweight champion. And the biggest sanctioning fees were the heavyweight champion. So you control the heavyweight champion, you control boxing. Why do you think that Golden Boy has Luis Ortiz? Why do you think that Al Heyman is hoping to keep Wilder? They're trying to groom Wilder. They all know this. Get the heavyweight championship, control the heavyweight championship, get a strong heavyweight champion that draws ratings. And we are power players because Don King didn't have a lot of good fighters. And he had some, but not a lot of great fighters in lower weight classes. But Don King controlled the heavyweight championship, and that meant Don King was the dog in boxing. Don King could sign fighters in other weight classes and get them title shots. Why? Because the WBC was, they were going to do what Don King wanted. Don King had the champion, and Don King was the man. And Don King started by the heavyweight division. I think that's the division. That's the way Golden Boy is starting to go with Luis Ortiz. They're going to try to go that route. I believe Al Heyman now has a hold on that because I believe his working arrangement with the folks and with Anthony Joshua's promoter, and the fact that he has Wilder gives him that that leverage there of controlling almost two belts. And then you have Tyson Fury, the undisputed, the real heavyweight champion of the world, and he's not aligned with anybody. But I'm sure they're going to, once Tyson Fury gets past his rematch with Klitschko, they're going to try to, hey, let's see if we can get Tyson Fury. Let's try to get those other two belts. Get the lineal. Everybody wants that because once you get a dominant heavyweight champion, a Golden Boy would love to find a way for Luis Ortiz to fight Tyson Fury and become the lineal. then hey, they're the power player. Got to go through us. We're the heavyweight champion. Um, Al Heyman would love to do it. Got to go through us. We got the heavyweight champion. When you don't have a strong heavyweight champion, that's when fighters in the lower weight classes become strong. And people don't understand that when during the era of Sugar Ray Leonard, after Ali left, the heavyweight division wasn't really that strong. Larry Holmes wasn't that big of a draw. Mike Weaver, yeah, whatever. But that era there. Sugar Ray Leonard became the man because America wanted that charismatic. Plus, Leonard was an Olympian, so he wanted that charismatic guy, and that became Leonard. Leonard was followed by, then we had the Tyson era, and you see, where the lower weight classes were there, but everything was Tyson, and that's when Don King was putting those super cards, which were great. I mean, Don King would have cards where he had 4 or 5 champions on that card, but the reason he did that was because Tyson fights were usually 30, 40, were 30 seconds or less, so you had a stacked undercard because you knew the main event wasn't going to be that great, it wasn't going to be that long. You want that. A Golden Boy has a chance to do that because I look at these guys that are in the heavyweight division. Of these guys, the top guys, I think Luis Ortiz is the best guy. And I think that's why he's going to be the most avoided guy. I think Anthony Joshua probably has the best upside to be a long-term, good heavyweight champion. But if you're looking at it, the 3 guys that hold belts, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and Deontay Wilder, none of them are going to fight Luis Ortiz unless they absolutely positively have to. And that's because unlike the last time that we had a big Cuban that came over here to fight pro, this kid can actually fight. This kid is very good. He's a southpaw. He hits hard. He's very good. He's 37, so that's kind of old. That might be old for a lot of divisions, but heavyweights mature later. So we might, Luis Ortiz, honestly, he might have a good, maybe, he's 37 now. He might have a good 5 years left in him. But that's dependent on, if he can get a title shot, he might have a nice 5-year run there. But because I think he can beat just about everybody out there. What you're looking at with Anthony Joshua and Fury and Wilder is they're young. They've got a longer window to be there and be on top. And the heavyweight division it's starting to get strong again. It's starting to, from underneath, you're seeing some rumbles, some young fighters coming up. But right now, I would have to say Luis Ortiz, who's with Golden Boy, and I would think if I'm Golden Boy, I really start trying to press myself to get some mandatory to get this boy because you really either going to get him done. You got 5 years to do something with Luis Ortiz or wasting. You just can't. And that's a kid who I want to see more of what he can do. Now we got Rigondeaux. Let's get back to, we're going to kind of bring this back to the Rigondeaux situation. Guillermo Rigondeaux once again has, the guy, the WBO and the WA took the titles from Rigondeaux because nobody wanted to fight him. Well, now Rigondeaux's back. He's still undefeated. He's still the top dog in that division, beltless. And they said that the winner of Carl Frampton's last fight, the unification fight, had to fight Rigondeaux. Well, Frampton won, and Frampton said, you know what? That's not a fight I want. I'm going up to featherweight, and I'm going to fight Leo Santa Cruz. Now, when Leo Santa Cruz was at super bantamweight, Leo Santa Cruz made the same decision when it came time to fight Guillermo Rigondeaux. Said, not a fight I want. I'm going to go up to featherweight. Abner Mares, not a fight I want. I'm going to go up to featherweight. Guillermo Rigondeaux has been running people out of that junior featherweight or super bantamweight divisions for a long time. And this will be like his umpteenth run with the WBA belt. Because he keeps getting it stripped from him, getting it back. And the WBA honestly has become a fucking joke because they have too many champions in the weight classes. when I became a boxing fan in the early days, we had two organizations, WBA, WBC, and I said in my last video, we could name almost all the champions. Today, you have four of these guys. They're not worth the paper they're printed on. It really hurts the integrity of the sport. And the fact that we have four majors, then you got the WBA deciding they're going to have a super champion, a regular champion, and an interim champion. I digress. Interim champion should be a fight like the UFC's doing it with Jon Jones and St. Preux. Daniel Cormier got hurt. He was scheduled to fight Jon Jones in a rematch. Jon Jones was fighting for a title he never lost, by the way. He's supposed to fight. He gets hurt, so they're going to make an interim championship with the ideal that the minute Cormier is healthy enough to come back, that interim champion has to fight Daniel Cormier. Lovely. That's how it should be done. I could see an interim championship there. I think the IBF does the same thing. I know the WBC has made that their little silver belt. They become pretty much the #1 contender belt, and or switch to an interim belt in the event that the actual champion will get hurt. So the WBC has it on to the WBO. I don't know if they have it, but the WBA told to make a mockery of figuring that we can get more sanctioning fees and we have more champions. Guys, we have too many damn champions as is, and you're just making a fucking mockery of it. Honestly, you are. In a perfect world, we get these promoters stop being bitches and get these fighters made. People think it's the fighters that don't want to make the fights. Let me make this clear. Fighters aren't scared to fight anybody. They've been fighting everybody. They've been fighting the best guys since they were amateurs. Okay? This is boxing. The pro game is a business. And the people around them, their management and their promotional teams, are the reason a lot of times these fights don't take place. I mean, look at, there were great fights that could have been made. I mean, Timothy Bradley could have fought Floyd Mayweather a long time ago. Bob Arum didn't want to fight. And that's because, they probably approached him, hey, let's fight Tim Bradley. Bob Arum wanted. Tim Bradley could have fought Amir Khan at 140. They never made the fight. Tim Bradley could have fought, my man, the WBC, the champion now, Danny Garcia, at 140. Didn't want to fight. Promoters determine what fights are going to get made, or what fights aren't going to get made. Because, you come up there like this, come to say, I'd like to do okay, the WBO champion now at welterweight. You go up there and say, hey, why don't we have him fight Earl Spence? Bob Arum don't want that fight. Because Bob Arum knows his boy loses, he loses that belt. He ain't going to lose another belt to Al Heyman. So Bob Arum's down, we're going to keep that belt. We'll move up some guys from one this way, because Bob Arum's holding that WBO welterweight title for Crawford. For Terrence Crawford. He's holding this boy here. The boy that holds the WBO welterweight title is just a placeholder. He's a placeholder to hold that belt till Terrence Crawford makes his official debut at welterweight. When Terrence Crawford decided when to move to welterweight, Terrence Crawford is going to fight for the WBO welterweight title. If you look at the top-ranked fighters, especially Terrence Crawford, every title he's won has been a WBO title. Lightweight, WBO title. Junior welterweight, WBO title. Welterweight, that WBO title is waiting for him. Now, his next fight is supposed to be against Victor Postol, which will be the first time he will fight for a WBC title. I honestly would have liked to see Terrence Crawford clean out the lightweight division, but he didn't. He fought a couple times there, and that's the problem I have with fighters, what they're calling belt jumping. Belt hopping, division hopping. They're just coming in, win a belt, move up. Win a belt, move up. And then we give the boxing media, we give so much credence to that. Why don't we say, hey, clean out a division. Prove your greatness. Fight here, you're here. Hey, how about make a defense or two? The lightweight division, the record for most defense in lightweight division is 11 by the great Roberto Duran. I believe Shane Mosley might have the next at 8, but that was only with one belt. So Shane has 8 with the IBF belt. Guys don't stick around. Guys don't unify. Guys don't stick around. It's not about being great anymore. It's all about the money. And I understand that because you got a limited time to do this. But at the same token, when the question starts being asked pound for pound, who are the greatest fighters ever, you as a fighter, don't you want to be mentioned amongst the greats? That's a question we all have to, even that people that criticize Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather made the fights he had to make to be considered great. He made the money, but he also secured his legacy. And I hope to see more fighters do that. Maybe not in the manner Mayweather did it, but secure your legacy, guys. That's it for this time. We'll see you again next week.